one way or the other, by Friday, that's when the World Economic Forum wraps up proceedings, we will have a pretty clear idea of where the world is headed. That might sound dramatic, but in the context of what we are seeing in the US relationship with Europe and indeed the rest of the world, this is going to be quite significant. Donald Trump is going to be speaking on Wednesday. So Martin Sorrell joins me now in our studios in Davos.
I think you've been very optimistic, Vishnu. I'm sure it will be just as messy on Friday.
That's true.
As it is on Monday. I don't think we'll sort out much. We'll see.
What do you expect Donald Trump would focus on Wednesday, given the fact that if you look at Greenland, he insists he has to have it?
Well, I think he'll probably focus on that.
Yeah.
There'll be some focus, obviously, on Venezuela and Iran. Yeah. But I think probably the top of the... He's put the proverbial cat amongst the EU pigeons, hasn't he? The Greenland cat amongst the EU pigeons, and they're all flurrying around. I mean, I don't think our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, was due to come to Davos, but there was some speculation that he might come to support Rachel Reeves, because Nigel Farage is going to be here.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. Look, but I don't know whether anything firm will come out of this week. This is going to be a very American-dominated Davos.
Yeah.
Larry Fink is co-chairman with Andre Hoffman. USA has taken a house out of the church here in the village for the first time, I think. It's the biggest delegation, I think, cabinet ministers, Rubio, Lutkin. I mean, there's
Lutnick is here as well,
and so there's going to be a lot of people here. So we shall see how it plays out. But I think President Trump thrives on creating this sort of disruption. Steve Bannon calls it, what did he call it, flooding the zone. And he's been flooding the zone for the last few weeks, creating news or developing the news in all sorts of ways. Whether we'll get resolution or not, I don't know. I mean, I was a little bit bemused yesterday. I went to a group of Asian people, and there was a suggestion that, Greenland was the sacrificial lamb for peace.
Right.
So we shall see. But he tends to put an extreme position out there and settle for something less.
Yeah.
And whether, total ownership. He is a real estate guy.
Yeah.
He does believe in owning real estate. And look, I have to say that there is something in the Greenland position, given its geography, given its proximity to the States, given Russian and Chinese interest or potential interest in it from a strategic point of view. I always remember when in Iceland, when the Americans withdrew, George Bush Jr. withdrew the Americans from the Reykjavik base earlier than anticipated, and the lease ended. I think they had a lease on it.
Yeah.
The country that made the first indicative inquiry about using that disregarded base was China.
Yeah, that's true.
So the Chinese and the Russians
Canada
are very acute.
Canada has just struck a trade deal or a big deal with China.
This is the downside of Trump's policy, which is he has driven Carney into Chinese arms, and President Xi has done a good job. I thought President Trump's reaction on Friday night when he got on his helicopter in Washington, I think it was, good luck to Carney. If you can negotiate a deal with China, go ahead and do it. But that, I think, was
which he's done.
A little bit of sour grapes because Carney has gone and done that.
India's projected
Maybe
to grow...
Carney should be the UK Prime Minister.
All right. Take your word for that. 7.3% is the projected GDP growth of India. It's been revised upwards by the IMF.
For last year. And then
this is
year.
Despite tariffs.
Yeah.
And that's significant in my mind because 50% tariffs already exist. That can go up even more if India doesn't stop all equations with Iran. We have a port over there, we trade with them, etc., etc. But even at 50%, the fact that India is the fastest growing large economy in the world, emerging economy in the world.
Well, it's the largest growing, it's the fastest growing economy that the World Bank looks at, and not just for last year, but for this year and for next year. So 7, 6, and maybe they'll have to revise the number up. But no, India is on fire and is an alternative in an Asian context for China. If you have a big position in China and you're worried about being over-indexed to China, India is the next best alternative. The other thing, of course, is that Indian entrepreneurs are now spreading their wings
all over Davos.
They've always had a big presence in Davos, but particularly
there are curry counters over here out, along the promenade. I never saw that before.
Swiss curry. But whatever. But, India is in an extremely strong position. And I think Modi has done a great job for brand India and the positioning of India as between playing both ends off against the middle, as many do. Saudi, biggest defense partner is the US, biggest trade partner is China. So Trump's policy, and you see it, as you said, with Carney in Canada, the downside of it is it's going to drive people. And just going back to China for a second, the other thing that's happened, which is amazing, is China's exports.
Yes.
Post-Liberation Day, post-tariffs, they've expanded. They're at a record high. US is probably at a record low. It's gone down to 11% of Chinese exports. But LATAM, Africa, APAC, Middle East, and Europe. Europe's the battleground.
Yeah.
And maybe the downside of the Greenland push or putsch, the downside of that is that it drives the EU. Germany has just been in China. Keir Starmer is going to China in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
There's this big controversy about the Chinese embassy in the middle of London, next to one of our big cable highways. We'll have to see how it plays out. But the downside of the American view, I mean, if America is looking for world domination and is not prepared to accept a G2 world, a sort of US-China world, which apparently it is not, the downside is it drives people away.
Indeed it does. So Martin, thank you very much for speaking to us. Really
Pleasure.
appreciate it. So Martin Sorrell talking about several of the larger issues, contextualizing Donald Trump's politics within international relations, the impact on China, the impact on India, and perhaps most significantly where Europe stands in this rather challenging hour. We leave it there. Thanks very much for being with us.